Hello.
Hello, hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us, joining me with a very special person, one of my favorite people on the planet. Okay, I fell in love with her as Monica, but now I know her as Roma Downey. She is a beloved actress, a New York Times best-selling author of the book Box of Butterflies, which was an amazing book filled with inspiration. And now she's released a new book appropriately called Be an Angel: Devotions to Inspire and Encourage Love and Light Along the Way. And it's a 52-week inspiring devotional, but I devoured it, of course, in one day because I couldn't stop reading. It was so juicy and delicious. And I thought to myself the whole time I was reading, I said, what a needed book. This book is so needed right now. As I went from chapter to chapter to chapter, she talked about kindness and love and gratitude and making choices. And, Roma, I felt so empowered as I read it because you kept saying a very common thing throughout each thing, that we get to choose to love. We get to choose to be grateful. We get to choose to be kind. And I was just so inspired and a little challenged because in a couple places I didn't feel like I was really that good of an angel, but I was inspired to do that. Hello, how are you, dear friend?
Thank you for agreeing to be on here with me. And hello to everybody at home or wherever you are joining in. I'm so grateful that you're taking the time to spend with Michelle and myself today, just for a little bit of a chat. Just so everybody knows, I'm here in my home in Southern California, and Michelle is talking to us from Ghana, way across the world. And we were just commenting before you all joined us that the world really has become a much smaller place. And, while we complain about technology stopping us connecting with people because everybody's on their phones, I think we also have to be grateful to technology because it's allowing us to have this conversation across the world where our friendship knows no distance, no borders, and no time, because we haven't seen each other in person since before COVID pandemic, and I mean, it's like the missing years in everybody's lives where but we're so grateful now to have this time to be together, to get to see you on camera. And you look beautiful, by the way. And again, my gratitude to you for taking the time to do this with me and to share with everybody. Let me see where it is on the screen. A brand new book, isn't it? It's so pretty. Look, I'm wearing the green dress. It's like the green lady on the book. And my daughter said to me, Mom, only you would get a manicure to be the same color as your new book. And I'm like, girl, I'm on brand. I'm all about the color scheme. So
of course,
anyway,
because you're such a girl.
happy to share, what was on my heart writing this. And really, if we just set the intention for this hour, it was always my hope and my prayer that my book would bless whoever gets to read it. And I really wrote the book, Michelle, imagining one person. I'm not, I really wrote it. You and I were talking, remembering the last time we were together, sitting, having a cup of tea and looking out on the ocean blue. And I really wrote this book, imagining that I was sitting down with a friend and having a cup of tea, because it's not lofty, it's not written in some big, unrelatable way. I hope it's written in an intimate way where people feel like they can connect to it and it resonates with them. Each of the stories were deeply personal for me, and I wrote them in such a way that I imagined that there were out there that maybe had experienced disappointment or had experienced loss, was going through a grief or a loss of some sort, which seems to have been, a theme that unfortunately has resonated, in my life, and that I've lost a lot of people that were very close to me and that I love dearly. And yet, we're talking about the choice to love. We have the choice to get up each day and to continue to move forward. I don't think it's an option to lie down under the weight of it. We have to. What doesn't break us makes us stronger. And with God's grace and God's help and the help of friends, we can, stand back up and keep moving forward with lessons learned. So this book was about the lessons that I have learned in my life. And I've tried to tell them in a way that maybe would help you, because I've gone through it and I learned this. Maybe if you're in the middle of it, in the middle of your storm or the middle of whatever you're going through, that this book would be helpful to you, would be a blessing to you or someone that you love.
Well, it felt intimate. When I was reading, it felt like it was a conversation just between the two of us. And let me tell you, all of you are going to love this book, and I highly commend it for a gift. Mother's Day is coming up, Easter's coming up. It's a wonderful tabletop read. You're going to devour it. Like I said, it's 52 weeks, but I read it in 2 days because it was just so juicy and so
and
good.
it's an easy read, I think. I mean, my experience with it too is that you could just, I would invite you to come along with me. Anybody who is already in a spiritual life, maybe it's just an extra thing that you do in the morning after your morning routine, after you say your prayers or read your Bible or whatever it is that you do. Maybe you would join me with Be an Angel. But for those of you out there that aren't on a spiritual walk, I think there's still so much value in the book to just take the time to center yourself in gratitude, to take your time, to give thanks to the Almighty, and and just to be present, to really live an intentional, mindful kind of a life where kindness, is at the top of. I think that was the word that kept coming up for me as I was writing was kindness. How do we be kind to each other? How can we talk to each other? How can we even disagree with each other, but do so respectfully? And so it's a book about encouraging other people and encouraging each other to be kind. Speak words of kindness. Michelle, words have so much power. They have the power to hurt, or they have the power to heal. And and again, that just has to start with you being a bit intentional and remembering before you speak too. I think in the past I might have been a much more impulsive. I might have gotten triggered more easily if somebody said something, and I would snap back. And now I'm just really learning. I'm training myself. I'm choosing to take a pause and to think before I speak back. To think, would that be kind? Because I don't get to take it back once I've said it. I don't get to take it back. So I'm just trying to be more thoughtful, I guess, in my life.
Well, I have to say, I thought that the book, when I started reading, I said, this is so timely because we're living in such a mean world right now. And you really kind of gave everybody a little self-check. This is kind of like a check yourself before you wreck yourself kind of a book in a sweet Monica kind of way,
I love that. I wish I'd heard that before I was writing. Check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Before you wreck yourself. But here's something that you wrote in the book that I underlined, because you said something very interesting about kindness that I'd never really thought about before. You said, I've learned that between every stimulus and response lies a space. And in that space, we get to choose. Yeah. Kindness often involves not reacting to something quickly. Because I think sometimes we think that kindness always has to be this outward show. And that kindness can actually be the self-discipline of not doing what we feel like in the moment. And you said,
you're absolutely right. Yeah, the kindness can be don't say anything. My old Irish dad used to say, if you have nothing nice to say nothing. And sometimes that can be the kindest thing to do as well. But
exactly.
But yeah, I mean, when we were during the pandemic and everything, I found myself on my got jumping into social media a little bit more perhaps than I normally would. And although I do enjoy a bit of social media, I have to say, and I really particularly like Instagram, I'm committed every day to posting something positive on my social media, even if it's just the rising of the sun and adding a positive quote or a piece of scripture, you know. And I'm very fortunate that the way my house is angled, that I get to see the rising sun. And I know that not everybody gets to see that, you know, people living in cities and apartments, and, you know, they don't have access to seeing the sunrise. So I get to see it. I'm usually up with the birds. Michelle, menopause has meant that sleep and I are no longer best friends.
Fantastic. So, you know, I'm not a morning person.
I didn't used to be, but now, you know, usually I'm up and I'm praying the sun up, and I'm so grateful to see the morning arrive, because sometimes the night has felt very long. Anybody out there in menopause will know what I'm talking about, but it's
Man, I got a witness.
But
Roma, one of my favorite stories, because I felt like it just showed your heart, and I said that's where she got that from, was a story that you shared about your childhood. Okay, so if you're nosy and you really want to know everything about Roma, you definitely need to get the book. She shares so many amazing stories about her childhood and her mom and her dad. And I just felt so much closer to her. I mean, I knew a lot of those stories, and I've you know, had the chance to sit and have tea with her. But it just felt so like you just let us into your world and really shared things that shaped the beautiful person that you are. But one of my favorite stories, Roma, and I said, okay, this sums her up in a nutshell. You talked about when you were at school and the teacher came to you and said, Jesus died for you. And you took that very personally and went home, and there was a photograph of Jesus. And you put some healing ointment on your scars.
You know, I was raised in a Catholic home. And so we had a lot of holy pictures, you know, pictures of Jesus and statues of Jesus and, you know, all around the house. I mean, really, we had quite a few. But I was so upset at the idea that I must have been 5 or 6, that I had something to do with Jesus dying. I mean, I loved him so much. And the fact that maybe I was somehow personally responsible was, I don't mean to laugh, but it's like I'm laughing at the little child in me and the misunderstanding. But we had this ointment. In America, it probably would be called Neosporin. But back when I was growing up, it was called Germaline. It was a kind of an ointment for sores if you cut yourself, and so I got the Germaline out, and I went around all the holy pictures and all the holy statues, and then I put the Germaline on the wounds of Jesus, on his hands and his feet, and on his side and on his head, where the crown of thorns had hurt him. And I was just trying to atone, you know, and when my mother came into the room and saw, first of all, the mess that I had made of everything in the house. And then, you know, when she and my dad began to understand, you know, what had happened and and just the misunderstanding, you know, whatever way I had taken that information. And sometimes we do as children. But I mean, even those holy pictures in the house, I remember saying to a wee girl on my street, you know, we were talking about the Lord. And I said, well, you know, she said, oh, well, it's something about Jesus. And I said, oh, well, no, he doesn't look like that. And she says, well, how do you know? And I said, because we have a photograph of him in our house. And, you know, it's also the sweetness of the child. You know, of course, it was a artist's, it was a print, you know, of a painting or something. But the child in me had a photo. I hear your little dog there, Michelle. Is that your dog? Yes. I have a house full of dogs. So I understand. I am a big dog lover. I love my dogs. I tell you, my dogs have been a big teacher to me about unconditional love. You know, I go out to work. I get caught up at work. I'm home later than I thought I would be. And the 3 of them are just waiting. They're like, there's no attitude. There's no, you're late. You didn't call. There's nothing. They're just so wiggle. They just wiggle. And they're always just so happy to see me.
And talk about forgiveness. You know, one of my dogs went to the dog park one day and ran up to his friend, and his friend promptly lifted his leg and sprayed him. And he just went back and took it off and went back to playing. And I said, I'm sorry, I don't think I recovered that fast when someone rains.
No, you know that quote you were reading earlier, between stimulus and response?
Yes.
I don't know if that happened to me, that I would have had a big patient fuse if I'd just been sprinkled on, but yeah,
But
yeah,
you said something about forgiveness in your book. You said, I can't forgive like Jesus, but I can forgive because of him. And that really struck a note with me.
yeah,
Again, you talked about the fact that we have the power to choose forgiveness and that we tend to more readily see wrongs than what our own mistake might have been in the exchange. And
of course.
I just found the things
But
that you said
I
so
mean,
practical.
what I did with each chapter, Michelle, was I put a be an angel suggestion at the end. So
Yeah.
remembering that love is a verb, and anybody could say, I love you, but what are your actions saying? Or anybody could say, I believe, I have faith in the Lord, I believe in God, but what are your actions saying? So be an angel is a call to action. It's and at the end of each chapter, I have a suggestion of things that perhaps were relevant to the chapter you would have just read. And
Yes.
so on the chapters on forgiveness, because I have had this conversation with friends loads of times, friends that have had really awful things happen to them. One could even say almost unforgivable things that have happened to them. But when you get shut down and locked down in anger and hurt, ultimately you're in a jail, and the forgiveness really isn't even about what you're giving the other person. It's a gift that you're giving to yourself to set yourself free. And I have people say to me, well, Roma, that's easier said than done. How can I just forgive? First of all, I don't want to make what they did to me right. And
Yeah.
it's like, well, forgiveness isn't saying what they did to you was okay. Forgiveness is just opening your heart to the grace of God. And so in one of the chapters, I end up with my be an angel suggestion is just bring it to God and say, I want to forgive. I don't know how to. I can't seem to open my own heart to it. But with your help, would you help me to forgive? And I believe once we set intention, particularly intention set through prayer, that then God's grace will start working on all the closed places in your heart and help you to
Right.
open your heart and move through. When we did Michelle some years ago, my husband and I and our company Lightworkers, we got to produce a remake of the epic picture Ben-Hur.
It
And
was
there was an incredible scene in that where the actor playing Judah Ben-Hur, played by Jack Houston, he has an encounter with Jesus as Jesus is being taken to his own crucifixion. And Jesus drops with the cross, and Judah Ben-Hur goes to give him a drink of water, and the Roman kicks the cup out of Judah's hand. And he instinctively grabs a rock. He's going to punch the Roman soldier, and Jesus stops him and says, no, I'm doing this of my own free will. And now Judah Ben-Hur goes up to the cross, follows him up to the cross. And of course, he hears Jesus speak from the cross. Now we know that Jesus said 7 things when he hung on the cross. But one of those things he said was, Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. And in our movie, we had Judah Ben-Hur almost like he couldn't believe what he was hearing. Here was a man hanging on a cross, having been brutally, savagely murdered, and he's forgiving the people that did it to him. Now he's still at this point clutching that rock. And when he hears Jesus and the grace that comes with that, we see his hands loosen and he lets go of the rock. And I tell that in Be an Angel because I wanted to illustrate and remind each of us of all the places maybe that we're holding on to the rocks in our own lives, rocks of anger, rocks of hurt, rocks of disappointment. Anywhere we're hanging on to something, I just wanted to encourage us all just to start to try to let those rocks go because they're heavy to carry around. And it's like you're doing all that extra work, all that extra effort, and you don't need to. And God is just waiting to fill your hands, with his love, his light, and spread your wings, it's like be like an angel. mean, I'm not suggesting any of us are angels. I mean, well, no, I just played one on TV, but and I loved playing one on TV, on Touched by an Angel. It was my happiest days. But I probably should start signing. Maybe while we're
Yes.
talking, I'll start signing some of these books. I know people out there want to get a signed book either for yourself
Yes.
or your mom.
Please log on to
Your best friend.
premiercollectibles.com
How do they do that?
when they log on to premiercollectibles.com /be an angel, you can order your signed copy. She is signing right now. And we have some questions coming in too, Roma.
This one is for you.
Thank you. See, everyone can get a signed copy. Now, someone asked, how did this book come about? Do you miss Touched by an Angel? One of my favorite box sets. I love you, and the title of the book, God Bless You.
That's so nice. The title is, you know, I really just wanted this to be a book that would just bless others and to encourage each of us to be, you know, nicer to each other. Riley, my daughter, she's now 26, hard to believe. But oftentimes she says, you know, Mom, I love you so much, but you are so corny. You're like a corny mom, the corny mom. And it's like, I am a bit corny, and I'm going to own that I'm a bit corny. But I have loved angels, and from my, you know, from before Touched by an Angel. But, you know, we know that in Scripture, I think the Bible references angels almost 300 times, I think. I think I'm right in saying that. But sometimes they come, you know, they must look a bit spooky, because oftentimes the first thing they say in their, you know, that supernatural way is, fear not, don't be afraid. So there must have been something about their appearance, I think, that, I'm just adjusting my camera here. There must have been something that just made people a little sort of freaked out, perhaps. But, you know, listen, 10 years we played, we were on the air, Michelle, almost 10 years on Touched by an Angel. And I bet you a lot of people that have tuned in today were fans of Touched by an Angel. So then everybody knows how much I loved Della Reese, the beloved Della Reese. I wrote the I wrote the credit to this book to my mom and dad, Maureen and Patty Downey, who, you're right to say, they made me the woman I am. It's the value system and the belief system that they taught me that I live my life with today. I grew up in Northern Ireland, but my mother died when I was only 10 years of age. And so, you know, and that was obviously a huge trauma, a huge loss in my life. And, you know, I miss her every day. And I mean, she's gone 50 years, you know, but there's not a day goes by that I don't miss her. But when I started on Touched by an Angel, I went into a hair and makeup trailer, and I hadn't met Della Reese before. Of course, I knew who she was, but I had already started working. She was now in the hair and makeup trailer, and I went in to meet her. And, you know, and I was excited to meet her because she was going to be my co-star. We didn't know then that it was going to run for almost 10 years. Well, actually, I think Della knew. I didn't know. I was just happy to have a job because I had rent to pay. But I went in and I put my hand out to shake her hand, and she pushed my hand away. She said, "Baby, I don't shake hands." She said, "I'm a hugger." And she just took me in her arms. And honestly, I can tell you there was no better place to be, no safer place to be in the world than in the arms of Della Reese. And so the relationship that evolved on screen between Tess and Monica was reflected very much off screen in Roma and Della. And she became a mother to me. You know, I mean,
and a godmother to your daughter.
Yes, a godmother to my daughter. Yes. I remember in the church when Riley was getting baptized, she held her up. It was almost like a scene from The Lion King or something. She held little infant baby Riley up, and she said, "As long as there is breath in my body, I will always stand up for this child." And, you know, it was just she was such a powerful presence, such an incredible woman of faith. And she, you know, she did. I mean, we had the privilege of of being with her and friends with her and loving her right through the end of her life. And when she finally made her transition, she did so on her, on her own terms. And she did so with her heart open for heaven and expectancy of heaven. And we would be in her room with the hospice help, the doctors, the kind nurses, her friends. She had a lot of love and support. But they'd be playing gospel music in there, and every now and then she'd just smile and squeeze somebody's hand, and it was beautiful. I mean, she was still teaching. I think she taught me in my life how to live, how to be strong. And, she just taught me so much, honestly. When I mention her in the book, I say she taught me how to fly, I mean, to trust my wings, my angel wings, and how to use them. That was all her. She had lived a lifetime by the time I worked with her, and she had learned so much, and she was very generous in her, in her sharing of her experience. And we were an unlikely duo too, Michelle. I mean, she was quite tough and sassy.
It was sassy, yeah.
Feisty when she needed to be. She had originally been from Detroit, Michigan, and I am much more soft spoken. I was little to her, bigger. I was Irish to her, Detroit. I was, white to her, black. And but you
Yeah,
couldn't.
yeah.
It was divine casting. We didn't audition together. We were cast separately. And I just think the Holy Spirit must have been at work that day, because we were, so good together, and we were genuinely really, really loved each other. So you'll see a lot of stories in Be an Angel about Della too, because Della really, more than anybody, taught me how to be an angel, and reminded me when we were working together that if we were going to be used, if the show was going to be used to help people get closer to God, remember the basic premise of the show was that there is a God, that God loves you and wants to be part of your life. And we had the privilege to get to say that every week for 25 million people. And
I cried at every episode. I just want you to know, I was one of those people, and I
yes,
just openly, I mean, it just always touched me so deeply. And guys, you really have to get this book, because there's so many good juicy stories that Roma tells about when she was working on Touched by an Angel, and just about her family, and it's so many great stories. I was laughing and crying, and all you have to do is sign on to premiercollectibles.com/be an angel to get your signed copy from Roma. Roma, you won't believe how many people are asking, when is the reboot of Touched by an Angel going to take place? Is it coming back? What can we do? We want another.
well, it's owned. I would love to see it come back, even though, both of my beautiful angel co-stars are now real
Andrew.
angels in heaven. Yeah, Andrew John Dye passed away, I don't know how many years ago now, but tragically and very young. And of course Della passed a few years ago. So, no, I think it would be marvelous. And obviously maybe this time around I could get to be the all-knowing angel, and I could have a few apprentice angels under my wings. But the show is owned by CBS, so I don't own the show. And even though now this last 15 years, my day job mostly is producing, I haven't really been doing that much acting. But I do have a great new film, Michelle, that's coming out on April 7th. If anybody out there doesn't yet have the Prime Video, the Amazon app to stream, you must get it for April 7th, because this film is called On a Wing and a Prayer. You see this sort of theme in my life, wings and things. Angel wings. This is about a plane that a family get on, a family of believers who get on, and they're hurtling through the air from Fort Myers to Louisiana. And while they're in the air, the mom, the dad, and the two kids, Dennis Quaid plays the dad, marvelous performance. Heather Graham plays the mom, she's amazing. And the two kids are in the back. And the pilot, tragically and unfortunately, dies of a massive heart attack. So suddenly here they are in a plane that's flying through the air, and nobody knows how to fly the plane. And it plays out this extraordinary thriller. It's a film that you could sit down on the couch with your parents, with your kids. It's a family-friendly movie. It's tense and it's exciting, but it's a story of how somehow miraculously, this family, are just touched by, they pray, of course. I would hasten to say that there's probably no atheists in a foxhole. I would say whatever you believe, if you were find yourself flying through the skies without anybody at the steering wheel, you might find yourself praying as well. Well, this family, fortunately, are going to have their prayers answered. But it's a terrific movie. I'm very proud of it. I shot it in Atlanta at the end of 21. So last year was all about the edit. It's directed by Sean McNamara. Listen, like anything you do, it takes a village. We had an incredible village on this film. And so this is a great first quarter of the year for me. If you think of your life in seasons, and last year, I was out there, I was digging my fields, I was sowing seeds, I was doing a lot of work. And this first quarter, at least, I feel is about the harvest. I wrote this beautiful book, it's a very personal book. And, it leaves you a little bit vulnerable when you write your own stories and you share. It's like pulling back the curtain, come into my life and have a look. Here's what I've learned. But I was hoping that what I've learned would be valuable to somebody else. And so even if it's not your cup of tea, maybe it's a book that would be nice for somebody that you love, or somebody who's been kind to you, somebody that's been like an angel to you, and you could give this to them maybe for Easter. Here we are in the beginning of the Lenten season, as we all started to take time now to prepare for Easter in 38 days or whatever it is. And then on the heels of Easter usually is Mother's Day. And so I'm signing these books here. I hope that sometimes it's nice to have a signed book. It makes it a little bit more personal. It makes it a little bit more.
Don't just get one. I think that, get one for yourself, but you've got to give someone a gift. I mean, maybe someone that's lonely. She talks about loneliness in her. She talks about courage. She talks about, she said something. She said, loneliness isn't simply a feeling to endure. It can also reveal something about us. Ooh. I mean, they're just little zingers throughout, and she weaves it in with these amazing stories and then challenges you to be an angel at the end of each chapter. And they're small little devotionals. It's not like a hard book to read at all. Like I said, I devoured the whole thing in 2 days. Yes. And I can't sit still. I'm ADD. So for me to get through the whole thing, I was taking notes. I am. My attention span, but it was so juicy.
My husband too. He's one of he's got that personality too. I'm like all in, I'm in and I'm in. But I think this book, if you remember my book, Box of Butterflies, because you and I did something similar, but back in those days we were still in the room together. It has this, I think, an opportunity is, of course, read it. Of course, you could read it every day for the 52 days. Of course, you could, however you choose to do it. But I think there's also a way that you could just randomly open it to any chapter. And, on any given day, perhaps it would be maybe what you need. Maybe it just lands exactly what you need. So I am signing these and I'm putting, so you'll know you got it here with Premier Collectibles. I'm putting a little heart on each one. And that's just so that it comes with my love to you or to whoever the angel is in your life that you're buying the book for. And as I say, I have just prayed into this book because writing books, I didn't start my career as an author. I started my career, I actually thought I was going to be a painter when I first left high school. Really? I was quite good at art. Yeah. But then I became interested in theater. And I remember reading a dissertation from the Dutch painter Vincent van Gogh, where he said, anybody knows his story. He kind of he had mental illness, and his brushwork and his paintings became a bit more dramatic, and you can see it in the way that he painted. But he wrote these series of letters to his brother Theo. And in those, he said, Theo, it's no longer enough for me to be the painter. I want to be the paint. And at that time, I thought, I really wanted to be an actor. I thought, I don't want to be, a painter. I want to be the paint. So, of course, I became an actor and was very fortunate in a career, that you hear a lot. There's a lot of rejection in an acting career. But thankfully, thanks be to God, I did quite well, and I worked pretty much consistently. And then I moved over to producing, and I started a company called Lightworkers, and under that banner we produced the Bible miniseries and the film Son of God, and I just mentioned Ben-Hur, and a myriad of other things. But and On a Wing and a Prayer, my latest movie, is a Lightworkers movie as well. But I just felt the prompt in my heart these last few years to sit down and write. So it's not been my day job. This is maybe why I get up so early, because I get up early and then I do my writing in the morning, and then I do my work. I go to work, or we're doing more work from home. But anyway, I've just
that would explain why it feels like a devotional too. If you're doing it in the morning before you go, they became your devotions that you shared with us. And one of the wonderful things about it is the format of it is you don't have to read straight through if you're not a reader. You can just pick the part that appeals to you. Maybe you need something about hope. Maybe you need something about friendship. Maybe you need something about courage, because she's really broken it up into little sound bites of each of those topics that just appeal to wherever you are. So it's really a book that meets you where you are. You don't have to do the whole thing, and that's another reason why it's a really good gift, because there are people hurting. Somebody right now that's hurting, someone that feels lonely, someone that's frustrated about something or struggling with some area of their life. This is a great inspirational gift to give them. The book is Be an Angel, and you can just log on to premiercollectibles.com/Be an Angel to get a signed copy from Roma now. Get one for yourself, and then don't be stingy. Get one for someone else. Roma, don't keep the good news to yourself. You got to share, okay? Now,
that's right. Scream it from the rooftops. Woohoo!
Roma, there's a question here that says, have you always been this inspirational and full of the spirit? We loved watching you on Touched by an Angel.
Well, I think that being on, the year that I got touched by an angel, I have to tell you, I was an actor looking for a job. I wasn't on any kind of mission. I had rent to pay, I had bills to pay like everybody else. So when that script arrived on my desk, though, I remember almost like I couldn't believe what I was reading, because I was a believer. And here was a show that was going to be on American primetime TV that dared to mention God, that spoke about God. It was like, is this for real? Is anybody going to actually make this? So when I went in and took the audition for it, I was trying to be American. I was doing my American accent, because that's what, the breakdown has been like, and so at the end of the audition, the director said to me, now you're British? I said, I'm Irish. I'm from Ireland. And he said, oh, that might be interesting. Could we hear it with your Irish accent? And so I started doing the lines with my own accent, or whatever this version of my own accent is, remembering that I'm Irish, but I've been in America for 35 years, so it's obviously softened my Northern Irish accent a bit, which is a bit harder. But, I think everybody in the room knew when I spoke it with my Irish accent that it worked, that it really worked for some of that dialogue, And anyway, I was delighted I got the part. We shot the pilot, how our TV business works is you do a pilot, you don't know if it's going to go to series or not. So there's that kind of, hurry up and wait. And then it got picked up to series. And then it really had a kind of it was like the little train that could. That first, I think we were put on early hiatus. That's why we didn't quite make the 10 years. It was like 9.5 years. And usually early hiatus means it's the kiss of death. It's like the long goodbye. They put it on and they pulled it off the air. We'd been opposite Roseanne. We were opposite somebody else. They kept moving the night. The audience couldn't find it. It was so on and so forth. Every reason for it not to succeed. But, I think God was all over it and in it and through it. And with Della's encouragement, she said to me, you and I, baby, we just need to get out of the way. We just need to step to the side and let the Spirit move through us, out through the camera and into people's hearts. And that's what we tried to do, And of course, finally moved to a Sunday night, Michelle, and more than 25 million people would tune in each week. And so, that's a hungry people, hungry for hope. Hungry for God, hungry for the comfort that brings, hungry for TV programming that they could sit down together with their whole family. And that's the kind of content that I'm committed to making, is content that, I always used to say about my own work as an actor, if I didn't want my father to see it, then chances are I wouldn't want to do it. I wouldn't want to be in it. And so I kind of feel that way. My earthly father is still looking over. My heavenly Father is looking down, and I'm just committed to making shows and writing books and to try to be an inspiration. Listen, I'm not perfect like everybody else. I have my foibles. We're all a bit broken, aren't we? We're all a little bit broken, but with God's help and with good friends and the love of my family, every day the sun rises and brings with it a reminder that we get to start again. We get to try again. We get to, we get a do-over. That's one of the beautiful things about being a Christian, is that that's the God of second chances, and whatever your journey, for anybody out there that's watching, whatever you've been through, whatever heartache or maybe heartache that you've given to somebody else, there's always opportunity to say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I'd like to do better. I'd like to try again. And that's all we can do. We keep moving forward, right? Trying to be the best we can be. At least that's what I think. And yeah.
Someone has a question. How do you balance your home life, your career, and your passion for the Lord? You're such an inspiration to us all.
Oh, so nice. Well, I think maybe this last few weeks, my family might have said there's absolutely no balance at all. If you've never tried to launch a book, it's a commitment. But I wrote the book, and part of the commitment is trying to, let people know about the book, because otherwise you could have written the best book in the world and it could just sit on a shelf gathering dust if nobody knows about it. And, I don't have huge marketing dollars to spend. I'm not running TV campaigns. There's no billboards and posters if you're driving down the road to see me with a picture of my book. So I'm reliant on all of you who are watching to tell a friend or, just to help spread the word. The book, was written from my heart, and I hope that the message of the book will go into the hearts of whoever are reading it. But in general, we try to sit down as a family for dinner. Now, Mark and I, my husband and I, are now empty nesters. I wonder, Michelle, are you still there?
Yeah. I am.
Okay, my screen. All right, and can you still see me? Because I somehow have popped out, but I'll just keep talking. I somehow have lost the screen, so I'm just trusting. It's a leap of faith now. We're all still out there. But my husband, Mark, and I are now empty nesters. We have 3 children between us, James and Cameron, our 2 boys, and Riley, our daughter. Now they all, they live at least in our city, but they no longer live in our house. And that's a little bit of getting used to. We're kind of rattling around here by ourselves. But I'm thankful to say we sort of found a groove where they still come home on the weekends, and we're able to sit down together as a family and have a family dinner, and that's very important to us, to keep everybody close. And so we're kind of, projects come and go. This is a busy season as I'm harvesting, so a little bit more time spent at work. But typically, we make time for each other. I mean, it's important. There's nothing more important than my family, and so, if anybody came to me and said, Mom, you need to stop doing that. I need your attention over here, and obviously that's where my attention would go. It's about knowing your own priorities, right? But I think they're all very proud of me, and they're very happy to see me fulfilled too. I will turn 63 this year, and I think you're never too old to have a dream in your heart or to try something new. I think the best is yet to come. And if you had told me 10 years ago that I was going to be an author, or that I was going to be a best-selling author, I might have laughed and said, no way, I don't have a book in me. Now, this is my third book that I've penned by myself. And then I have a couple of books that Mark and I co-authored. And later in the year, I have a children's book coming out. So I've been very busy, but and then I have the film On a Wing and a Prayer coming out April 7th. So there's lots going on, but I'm so grateful for the opportunities, and grateful for just the ability and the health to keep working. I love working. I feel passionate about work. So it's additive in my life. I don't feel like it's anything that takes away from my life. But
well, you're an inspiration to so many people. And I always say, if it's bigger than you, then it's definitely God. So
that's a good. See, these are all good, Michelle. These are all going to be great in your book. You are great with the little zingers. What was the first one again? If you're a wreck, what was that?
Check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Check yourself before you wreck yourself.
That's right.
These are good. Yeah, so these are good, because I think we've become people who we like sound bites. We're like soundbite nation. We're people that maybe are reading headlines more than they're reading stories. We're scrollers. I mean, I scroll like everybody else. I love a good scroll sometimes, but I usually now set my clock on it, because it's a little bit of the rabbit hole, isn't it? It's a little bit like Alice going through the looking glass.
Yeah.
You think, sitting down for just a few minutes, I'll just check out what's going on Instagram. I love an Instagram. And I'm in there, and the next thing, it could be half an hour. You think, where did the time go?
Just half an hour for you? Oh, yeah.
I don't want to, it's like, I don't mind getting in and getting out, but I can't be living my life in there. I don't want to be living my life in there. Exactly. So it's like that requires a little bit of discipline sometimes. And, instead of reading, scrolling through, read a book, pick up a book, and a book maybe that would have value, that would bring some value, maybe some healing, or at least just remind you that you're not alone, because you're not alone. We're not alone. We who believe.
And right now, Roma, there's so much going on. I mean, it's kind of a scary time for a lot of people.
Yes.
You don't feel safe going out, and yet we have to have faith, that we can't just become hermits. I think that we kind of got into that psyche with COVID, and it's been hard for a lot of people to get out.
And it generated a lot of fear, didn't it? I mean, it was fearful times. And now they're saying, well, maybe we didn't need to be as afraid as we were. But I mean, I know people who died. So, I mean, it was a real thing that really happened. So, that's, I found myself very afraid at some points, and I'm still not quite as social as I had been before. I mean, I'm no longer isolated in my house, and I do go out and I shop, and I go to restaurants and all of that. But I'm aware. I'm more aware. I certainly am washing my hands a million times more than I ever did. And I have a little a tool that someone shared with me once. That's when the water hits your hand, just to say thank, and your other hand, thank you. and just
Mm-hmm.
throughout the day to put yourself back into gratitude, because
Right.
comparison is the thief of joy. And anytime we think that we don't have enough, or that we were looked over, passed over, it's like
Mm-hmm.
we have to remember that we have, the Lord provides, and we have what we have, and the only way we can focus on what we have is to be grateful for what we already have. And so I find, just when I'm washing my hands, just put my hands in the water, and then I remember, thank you. And from the
Yeah.
time somebody told me that and I started doing it, I've never forgotten it. And now, of course,
Mm.
I'm washing my hands a million times a day. So
Big
I'm in
ritual.
gratitude a lot. I just keep saying, thank you, God, for what I've got. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Mhm. You said something else very profound. Speaking of trouble and being able to be grateful in the midst of trouble. You said our troubles can be a pathway to closeness with God, and that
Yes.
faith is a journey of the human heart. I love that. I said, this is so poet. I mean, the language, you
Mm.
have that lilt when you talk, but it also comes through when you write. That lilt is there in the colors and the way, the language that you use. It just draws you in and just makes it such a lovely read. And once
Oh,
again,
you're so
we're getting close to time to say goodbye. So I just want to once again reiterate that you need a signed copy from Roma. And it's very easy. All you have to do is log on to premiercollectibles.com/be an angel to get your copy of Be an Angel. It's going to inspire you, it's going to challenge you, it's going to make you say, did I do that? You are going to love this book, and your friends or whoever you give this book to is going to love you for giving them a copy. So make sure that you get a copy, because there's so many good things. And like I said, for me, it's just such a timely read, because people are mean, people are afraid, people are lonely, people are hurting, and it addresses all of those things. So it's like comfort food. Yes, that's what the book is like, Roma. It's like comfort food. It's
What's
just
your
yum.
comfort food, Michelle? If you had to go
Oh,
to, like, what's your favorite go-to comfort food?
I've been thinking about mashed potatoes all day. I don't know why. It's not what I usually eat, but
I
I've just been
understand.
thinking
I'm
mashed
Irish.
potatoes.
We are the potato people. I get
Mm-hmm.
it. I might be
Mm-hmm.
more inclined to French fry myself, but but
Okay,
it
we're
would
talking
be,
now.
but but I'm off. I'm doing some withdrawing from sugar for
Mm-hmm.
Lent. I decided that I would give up sugar, and I'm just a few days in, and all I can think about is chocolate. And
Right,
honestly,
because you're
I
trying to
don't even
avoid it.
really
That's what
eat
happens.
that much. But the minute you deny yourself anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, then
Right,
that's where your focus goes. So. Um,
exactly.
I didn't didn't give up potatoes, curiously. So
Oh,
anyway,
that's what I've
I
been
like
thinking
that
about.
you're calling it comfort food. I pray that it will be an encouragement, and that it will be a comfort to people who read it. And I do think there is a blessing even in the most unlikely things that can happen to us. As I mentioned earlier, I lost my mother at a very young age. And I believe that the things that had heightened in me as I came through my adolescence and had to learn to cope and live without my mom was that it heightened in me my own ability to have empathy and my own compassion for others, because I understood what it was to have experienced loss. So if I met anybody that was going through that, I had an understanding of it. And I think it was interesting when I finally got cast to play Monica the angel on Touched by an Angel. The things that led Monica's angel personality were empathy, compassion,
Mm-hmm.
kindness, and understanding. And so obviously, I wish my mother hadn't died, but I feel that the blessing that came out of that was that I was being prepared in some way for this future role that I was going to play. So it allowed me to have the very qualities that I would need later. And I just think sometimes when we go through, there is a blessing in everything. Sometimes we just have to have ears to hear and eyes to see, and maybe a wise friend to help us understand it. Maybe it's going to just teach us something about ourselves, give us a little bit more grip, a little bit more, like strength. It's like, how do you know you can stand up? How do you get those thigh muscles unless you've been pushed to the ground, and then to get stand back up again, and with God's help, we rise, we keep rising. And with,
Yes.
and with the love of family and friends, we keep rising. And so there might be somebody, that's having a hard time rising, and the Be an Angel, suggestion would be go knock on somebody's door, or go pick up the phone and call them. There's no substitute. We text a lot, but there's no
Yeah.
substitute for hearing a human voice, hearing the voice of a friend. Or if you're at the grocery store, pick up a little extra something and bring it to a friend. There's all kinds of ways we can be like angels to each other. So that's what I was setting about to write here, which is encouraging each of us to open our hearts and be kind to each other.
Now, I think this is the perfect thing to go out on. Someone asked, what is your go-to Bible verse?
Oh, I'm a great lover of the book of Psalms.
Mm-hmm.
And I find, in the noisy, busy world that we live in, that I do I feel the closest to God in nature and in the quiet of nature. And so probably very short psalm, it would be Psalm 46, would be still and know that I'm God. I think that would be when I can move into that space, into that reverence, into the quiet of that the knowing, that the knowing surrounds me, and I'm just able to rest in that knowing. So Psalm 46 would be one of my favorites, but there's so many. I mean, the Bible is a great how-to, isn't it? And I read
Yes.
something recently about a friend who was reading the Bible and said, that reading the Bible is a chance to listen to God. Usually I'm talking to God, and
Yeah.
it's like just reading scripture gives you a chance to listen to the word of God. And it's a great, how to live your life. It's all in there. But
Stillness is
listen,
so hard. It's hard to be still, but you talked about creating the space for stillness. Can you talk about it?
yes. Yes. I mean, I think there are many different ways, but it's really, I think we just got to like turn the phone off, turn the music down, turn the, just step away, just step away for a minute. And for
Just
me,
be.
just to be in nature, to be in the trees, to be with this, to see the sky, just to, to hear the ocean, or to be in the mountains, wherever you happen to be. I mean, anybody I think has access at least to looking at the sky, just to try to
Yes.
find that quiet space within yourself. Because I think sometimes when we're so noisy, we can't hear God,
Yeah.
and then that makes us feel isolated. When the truth is, God is always present and always available. So I encourage that. I also like, I love the lighting of candles. We have an expression at our company that says it's better to light a candle than curse the darkness. And I really love that. The idea of the candle, there's something ritualistically striking a match, lighting a candle. It kind of brings everything into like a focus, and there's something almost holy about that, which I like. But listen, whether you're in a church, whether you're in on a walk by the beach, whether you're in a forest, wherever you happen to be, it's available. This is the beauty of it. You don't have to, it's not only one place. You got to show up somewhere. It's like, our God is everywhere. He's bigger than all of us, than all of our troubles, bigger than all, anything we can imagine. We can't even begin to imagine. But the fact that it's always available to us is such a comfort.
But you know what? You're so inspiring, Roma, because can I just say how impressive it is that you can be in the midst of Hollywood and be in it, but not of it, and just consistently be an angel. You have illustrated through your character down through the years a consistency that hasn't been distracted by the shiny things. It's so easy. I mean, I've been back and forth to Hollywood, and it's oh, it's all glittery and it can be overwhelming. And so what you've shown me is that there is the possibility to remain centered no matter where we are, no matter how heady life can become, no matter what conflicts, because life hasn't been easy for you your whole life. You've been through some things, you've weathered some storms, and yet there's a consistency and a peace that is very evident in you. And I want to thank you for being my friend,
Thank you.
and for sharing all the things that you've shared in your book, Be an Angel. I'm Michelle McKinney Hammond here with Roma Downey, encouraging you to get your signed copy today at premiercollectibles.com/Be an Angel. It's a must read, a must have.
Thank you.
Hey, this is John Acuff, New York Times best-selling author of 7 books and someone who's done a live signing. If you like the one you just watched, make sure you check out our YouTube channel. It's full of amazing authors having great conversations and signing books for viewers just like you. So make sure you subscribe, and thanks for watching today.